Battleline podcast, episode 155. It's crazy. We're approaching 3 years of doing this show. Thank you so much to everyone who's been on board. And we have a hell of a show for you today because we got Clint Emerson and Dale Sizemore, and we were talking about what movies got right, what movies got wrong for military guys. And I think people are going to love this discussion.
Yeah, it's fun. Just having a good time with everything. And I think people will be surprised at the stuff that military guys nitpick too in movies that that people miss or they just don't know. And one little thing, a hand placement wrong or a movement wrong or verbiage wrong. And it's like, this movie's dead. So yeah, I think it was, but yeah, great. Brother, it's amazing also that we're at 155. I didn't know we had that many episodes in, so that's pretty cool in itself, man.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, so many guys that we've interviewed and so many more to get to as well. Before we get to this one, man, I have to tell you that Beard Vet coffee has really become like my everyday thing. That's my pre-workout. I love it. And I was reluctant at first because I will be the first to say, there's so many coffees that I have where I'm like, this sucks. I can't do it. Like every now and again, a Starbucks is closed or something, and I'll go to Dunkin' Donuts and I'm like, this is terrible. I love Beard Vet coffee. That's become my favorite coffee.
It's good. And the K-Cups are awesome. I am a fast guy. Even with my leg, I don't want to brew coffee unless I really just got time and hours in the day to do it with the press. Their K-Cups are awesome. Honestly, I love and
I like a good strong coffee. That's why I like it.
That's what I love about it is, I do drink Starbucks every once in a while. I do like their K-Cups. I like the Beard Vet ones better because they're stronger. That's exactly why. And it mixes well with the bubs that we put in there. So guys, Beard Vet coffee has been tremendous. And I believe they're offering a Battleline discount. At least we asked.
Yes.
Cool.
And I'll throw out there, man. I mean, there's no shortage of Vet Bro or Bro Vet coffees out there. I think they are, and I've tried a bunch of them. I think they're by far the best. And I just like their mission. I like what they do. I like Sean from there. So I think they're the best. What would you say, Bro Vet, Vet Bro coffee? I guess
if it a good foundation, best Bro Vet out there. That's what I use, and that sets them apart, and it always sets people apart. If you're in the Bro Vet community, is having the ability. The K-Cup makes it great because there's a lot out there that don't. So whether you like just normal brewed coffee, which is tremendous, they make great stuff. But also, like I said, their K-Cups, I use those. That's what I love to use. I use them every morning. They're tremendous, and you can taste the coffee. That's what you want. You want to be able to taste it. So even with me using tons of sugar and cream, I can still taste the coffee. And I think it's tremendous. And I do, again, I love their mission over there. They're doing the right things and they're supporting the right groups as far as if you want to be a legitimate foundation, legitimate person that helps, they are. And man, they're just great guys over there. So good coffee, good people. And they go for a discount for us. What else do I need to say? Man, go pick it up.
And in terms of the mission, I should throw out there, they give back to a veterans charity every single month. Sean himself is a Marine. So check them out. They also have great merchandise. It's not just coffee. They've got the beard oil, all that stuff. So beardvet.com. They've got a huge Twitter following as well, at @beard_vet on Twitter, at Team Beard Vet on Instagram. And yes, they do have a promo code Tonto. Just spell it right, TANTO. And you're going to get 10% off. So beardvet.com, promo code Tonto.
From Omaha, Nebraska to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Twitch is on. Motherfucker, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battleline podcast.
Battleline podcast. This is a really exciting show. We've got Dale Sizemore on, Clint Emerson on, and originally we had Rudy Reyes lined up and John Waters. Rudy Reyes is getting slammed by Hurricane Ian, not talking about myself, of course. John Waters has his twin babies that he's got to worry about. But at the end of the day, I was thinking, let's be honest, 90% of the movies are Army and Navy, right?
So yeah, we don't need no damn. Yeah, fuck Marines. Yeah. I know I'm kidding, guys. I know everybody. Oh shit, here we go. Here we go. I'm gonna get trolled like a motherfucker. Hey Clint, I like that background, man. That's old. I don't know, something that old school reminds me of, like we're in a 70s diner with the zebra background in the back, man. So
yeah, it's the rotunda here at Chicago O'Hare.
Oh, you're
really?
I'm in between
that's right.
flights. Yeah.
See,
I'm psyched that you were able to make this work. Then that's awesome, man. That's dedication that you guys were able to do this. So just to give some background, I mean, a lot of this audience knows, of course, Clint Emerson, Navy SEAL, and Dale Sizemore, who we had on. The reason Dale is really perfect for this show, I would say, is that Dale was portrayed in Black Hawk Down. And that's why we'll probably not get into 13 hours in Black Hawk Down, because we talked about Black Hawk Down a lot on your show. But Dale's story is just amazing. I mean, got back in the fight after, and I don't remember exactly because it's been a while, but you completely broke your arm, right?
No, it was a ping pong accident, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was ping pong.
But you broke your arm completely, right? And then got back in the fight in Mogadishu.
Nope. I was wrestling with the colonel from Delta, Colonel Harrell, and we landed on my elbow, and a few days later it swelled up. I had ended up with cellulitis and bursitis. So it was like a football on the end of my elbow. They cut it open, stuffed it with gauze, put like a 3/4 hard cast on, and I was getting IV antibiotics every 3 hours and a hep block in the other arm. So, it was just one of those things. I just didn't want to get smoked, I mean, yeah. I was, and Clint, you can thank Chris and I for saving you guys, all the time. We spent
I'm not even getting into that, dude. Don't even start. I don't want to get into that shit. I know Clint, and if he wasn't in the airport, I know he'd be telling you to kiss his ass. All right. I like, oh my gosh, really already, Dale? All right.
Well,
Clint, if you don't,
I've done the Marines, so I had to do the other side. Bill's going to be calling you, pissed at you already,
Hey, Clint, if you don't know, Dale is still old school fucking 90s rangered out motherfucker from back in. That's why I love him, man. But no, what he installed, but with the cast and all that was correct. I know that because I fact checked with Floyd. I know Floyd, I know Colonel McKnight, and they're like, yeah, did he actually say, I'm going to cut this off and just so I could call you a pussy if you did, because the movie made you cook. Yeah, but exactly. He's like, yeah, Dale shouldn't have gone, and he actually threatened to cut his thing off to get it, which is to go out in combat. So that's pretty impressive. That is impressive, dude. That's why I had to live up to your.
That's how all of us were raised, though. You know what I'm saying, dude? I mean, it doesn't matter. SEALs, Rangers. I mean, that's why we're out there.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, Clint, thanks for you guys both coming on, and yeah, just make this lighthearted, just fun. I mean, bust each other's balls a little bit if you want, but I think with this is just coming on and talking more so of. We can talk about the realism, but it's movies, and what can we do? But also,
I think that's important though, because I think the reason, and actually, I think the first show we ever did, Chris, we were speaking about ideas for shows in the future. I really think that, like, the first ever show nearly 3 years ago, we said we got to talk about movies and we got to talk about the realism of some of them, because I know for you guys, if you see a movie and something is so inaccurate, you're completely checked out. You're like, this would never happen. I can't even follow this anymore. So I figured let's compile a list of all these different great military movies, and let's see which got things right, which got things wrong. And of course, you guys would say the two movies portrayed about your lives, they got things right, so
they did for the most part. I mean, there's still some sensationalism. I say sensationalism. They just have to, they have to mash so much together because they're trying to get 24 hours, 36 hours, sometimes in some of these movies, months within a 2-hour time period. So you do see a mash of characters. I mean, I'll even, and you can speak on this more than I can, Dale, but even in Black Hawk Down with Paul, Hoot, that was a combination of Paul Howe and then there's a couple other guys that were mashed together, where our chief of base, Bob, actually, he's a mashup of our chief and our team leader, who was a clown. But it was their combination of characters as well. So honestly, though, since Clint hasn't said anything, what I want to get is not just the movies itself, Clint, but I know you watch them like the rest of us. What are some things that you go into when you first start to look, that when you see it, it makes you like, I'm going to walk out of the theater right now. I'm done. They screwed it up, whether it's a tactical thing they've done wrong, or just maybe verbiage, or maybe overdoing the bravado, because Hollywood loves to overdo their bravado. What is something you look for in a movie that if you watch it in this military movie and you see it and it just turns you off, you just want to walk out of the theater?
Oh man, I don't, I'm all about the entertainment, so whenever there's those discrepancies, it doesn't really bother me that much. But when you see like a hand grenade blow up a building, we have all seen that, like, wow, that's one hell of a hand grenade.
The Unlimited magazine.
Yeah, they refer to their clips clips, and I'm like, okay, whoever the technical advisor was sucked for this movie. But I think we do it all the time with like just weapons handling alone. As soon as that first scene where someone's handling, whether it's a pistol or a rifle, and they're handling it like TJ Hooker or something, and that this is going to be a long run, and
Yep. I'm the same way. I'm the same way. It really is the weapons handling. You see the muzzle just flashing everybody around, or you see the referral. Like I said, even in 13 hours where Pablo had his hand down on that 46, where that palm was down, like, holy fuck. Nope, we got to redo that scene, or every Ranger is going to walk out of here.
Yeah.
And it's simple things like that you just know, okay, they're because if they're not taking that seriously, then to me, they're not taking this other stuff seriously, which is the teamwork, the brotherhood aspect of it, the personalities aspect of it. But absolutely. So I'm in agreement, but I guess the first one I want to get into, and I've always, because this was the first military movie I ever saw, and I loved it, but I was young at the time, was Navy SEALs, the first one, Charlie Sheen. Oh yeah. And even now I'll watch it, and of course the tactics and so forth. I love the rappelling, everybody coming in from different angles through the windows of the building at the very beginning, and they all rappel in at the same time. But to me, honestly, the bravado of it, the camaraderie, even when I watch it, it's still the same. You have that Charlie Sheen, that's that crazy motherfucker. You got the captain, the Lola, and then you've got all these other on there they're all different personalities and they all work together. I still think they got that right. I really do. And the craziness on the golf course. I have chased down deer being drunk on a military golf course because I can't hit, and with my driver trying to hit him, because the craziness you get on military golf courses. But I don't know, Clint, since it's a Navy SEAL movie, and Dale, you will have your time. I promise you this. What did you see it? And did you see it when you were younger, or was it something that drove you to be a SEAL? I mean, you're like, man, this is awesome, because we are at that age, brother. I hate to say it. I mean, you look good, but I know we're getting up there in age, man. You still look good. But when you saw it, what did you think, and what was your feeling on it? And was it when you were in or when you were out? Did it come out when you were first going in?
Let's see. I think that movie was in 90.
Yeah.
96, 94,
Early,
90.
Yep.
But I already knew I was already on the SEAL train long before that. When I was 10 years old, I met a SEAL in Frankfurt Airport, and he told me.
And I'm looking, by the way, guys. I'm sorry. It's actually 1990.
Oh wow, that's high school.
And then so I mean, I was already on the SEAL train, and then I saw the movie, but that helped because there wasn't as many books. There wasn't as just nothing, right? So you go to the library, there was like 2 books that were SEAL related. And
Borsenko?
I don't think his was out yet, but there was a picture book, I remember, just nothing but pictures of and they had one for all of your special operations. They had like the Ranger one that was specific. They had
I remember those. I have those. Actually, I still have them.
Yeah, color. It was like colored
Yeah.
pictures.
Yep.
You know, weapons, guys all cammied out, all that kind of stuff. But when I saw the movie, it did help kind of tie some things together, the unknowns, you know, because you hear sea, air, and land, and then you see them put it together on that jump where the water jump straight to Draeger, and then and then OTB, right? I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do. And those are actual team guys that jumped that and did that whole thing, right? I mean, they use nothing but real SEALs for all of those scenes, and so of course I was like, and then I remember the first time I actually got to do that, you know, coming in the Navy, getting through BUD/S, showing up to SEAL Team 3, and then like within a year actually jumping, you know, full dive kit into the water, fucking straight to Draeger. I was like, holy fuck, I'm actually doing, you know, we made fun of ourselves because it was in the movie. But and it's rare too. Like I think we only did that a couple of times, and then of course the wars kicked off and you never did it again.
Sure, yeah.
And a lot of times you're just jumping Zodiacs or jumping Ribs or jumping any of your jet boats, and so you'll just load those down with all your gear. So the days of jumping with all that shit on kind of went out the window, you know. But either way, you know, there are aspects that were very accurate, right? But you don't know it until you're in and you start doing it.
Yeah.
But some of obviously Charlie Sheen's like carelessness and stuff like that, like as you guys know, your world, my world, there's two things that you're graded on 24/7, and it's performance and safety.
Yeah.
Performing, then you're not going to be around long, and if you have a safety violation, then you're fucked.
Yeah.
So, you know, obviously the inaccuracies of him getting away with so much incompetence and risk just is, you know, but you do have those guys, like you said, but you're not pushing the limits like that.
Like that. Sure.
And Clint, I know that you know Drago, who basically escaped communism in Poland, became a Navy SEAL guy I've met several times. And he said to me when I interviewed him straight up, that movie inspired him to become a SEAL. So it definitely did something for recruitment.
Yeah. I think it inspired a lot of guys at the time. I mean, like I said, I was already on the train, but the movie certainly kind of tied some things together. Then Dick Marchenko's books after that. I mean, then it obviously the spotlight went from you Army guys with Sylvester Stallone and John Wayne, you know, then it came over to us for a little while. And I know you guys are still jealous about it, but that's okay.
You know, I have to admit though, come on, the Rambo stuff was awesome. We'll talk about that.
I was going to say that's a good transition when you said Sylvester Stallone, because we definitely want to keep things moving along here. And that would be a great.
Well, actually, hold on. I do want to know.
We got to keep things moving along.
I know, but I know we talked about Navy SEAls though. Dale was actually at that time. You were probably a private thing because it was the year or what? Yeah. Or were you just? Did you guys see that when did you see it when you were at Benning? Was Navy?
I will tell you, and please don't publish this part, but
we can't really edit right now. Dale, if you want, Dale, wait. If you want to publish, I'm gonna, because it's hard to edit video right now. Okay.
I mean, the Navy SEAls. I mean, I was like, these guys are the fucking shit. And when I went to see the Army recruiter and then, you know, I talked to the Navy recruiter also, but you know, there was no guarantee that if you signed up that you would get a chance to go to BUD/S. You know, and so that for me, it was one of the big things that you know pushed me toward the Army.
Well, I am definitely going to publish this part. Actually, it's going to go on the Ranger website now that Dale Sizemore wanted to become a SEAL. No, you're fucked, dude.
Yeah. No, I wanted to make sure there, just because with video, it's harder to do a smooth edit. So it's one of, anyway, I do want to keep things moving along because we got so many movies to cover, but you mentioned Sylvester Stallone, Rambo. I mean, I think it's safe to say not a whole lot of realism, but it's a movie that people love.
Dale, take it, man.
First Blood and Rambo in general.
Dale, you're deaf, man. I tell you, you're so rangered out, dude. Are you drinking already? Are you already drinking this morning?
I wish I've got some Tonto vodka in my cooler.
Yeah, that's all right. Hey, Dale, did talk about, if you can, First Blood. When you saw Rambo the first time, and what'd you think? And even today, I mean, I still love watching Rambo today.
Back then it was all entertainment. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I really didn't have when did Rambo come out? Was that early? It was in the 80s?
80s. Yeah.
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 I'm
So,
gonna
I
look
mean,
up First
no
Blood here.
reference.
High
You
school.
know, I really had no reference for a lot of those movies. You know,
Yeah,
Platoon and stuff like
First Blood, 1982.
Mhm. Yep. So I mean, to me, I was like, he's a bad motherfucker, you know. And but for entertainment purposes, I mean, that was a great movie, and really they kept that pretty good. You know, he was just kind of running through now, jumping off a cliff into a tree, and you know, sewing up a 12-inch gash in his
What are
side.
you talking about? You're talking about log tabbers don't do that? ODAs don't do that? I thought they did that shit all the time. I'll tell you they did.
I mean, you do what you got to do, but
and
but
that's
no, yeah.
Go ahead, buddy.
But they kept him pretty true to a warrior, you know. Really just kind of hiding and ambushing guys, and it wasn't too far-fetched, except for a few occasions.
Well, that's what I honestly, now I think Rambo, after the wars, after Global War on Terror, I think it's even more so, not the tactical part, but his feelings of coming home and feeling.
Right.
Sure.
I think at that time, the Vietnam vets and the ones I talked to in Vietnam, they loved that movie, but it hurt them because they understood what he was going through. I don't think a lot of our generation understood that until after GY. And now I think a lot of them watch it now and be like, okay, now I can relate to that. Yeah. Not that, again, we were treated way better than the Vietnam vets. We were, I just say we were, but to feel that, hey, feeling not part of civilian life, feeling a little off and different. I think it's more honestly applicable today. I saw it more as entertainment value, like you said, when I watched it back when I was in high school. Now I watch it and I see the end of it, and I'm like, okay, I get it now. I understand what he's going through. I don't know, Clint. What do you think, buddy? On First Blood,
well, I mean,
and the Rambo stuff.
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, to you too, especially, we all know SF guys that can't pull that shit. I mean, let's face it. If it's gonna be an army guy doing all that stuff, it's a ranger.
It's got me. That's what I was. But nobody. Yeah, we and that at that time, Dale. I don't know if you knew this, and Clint. Ranger Battalion would not let movie people, not until Black Hawk Down. The public affairs office would not let anybody come in to make movies about Rangers. That's why Heartbreak Ridge is Marine. That was Grenadier Rangers, but the Rangers would. And actually, I found that out after the fact. Like, why is I asked, actually, I came in and I said, why is Heartbreak Ridge Marines? That was a Ranger mission. He goes, well, because the PA office wouldn't allow the Hollywood to come in and talk to the Rangers until Black Hawk Down happened. But Clint, I completely agree with you, buddy.
The point being, I think we all know the misconception of the SF world when all of us know their primary mission is trainers, and they are the world's best trainers, and it's been their primary mission even through the global war on terror, through everything. And there's only 2 units that concentrate on DA and reconnaissance 100% of the time, full fucking job, SEALs and Rangers. And so that's the only part anytime like the SF thing's brought up that I'm quick to counter. Does that mean they weren't in combat? Of course they were, right? Yeah. They were putting themselves out there, and in the same place as we were, but the mission has always been different, and it still maintains to this day. So yeah, Rambo is a Ranger. He wasn't a Green.
That's what I tell people too. I do. But I do tell you what, I get that feeling of civilians and not being. Honestly, I got it a lot, and that's Benghazi. I hate, it's been talked about enough, but I do have some feeling I know what kind of is to be left behind, or the government to kind of turn on you. And that's where I was like, man, okay, I get that. Not that I ever will understand the full Vietnam thing, because those guys were really shit on. But I do understand, man, a little bit. I get a little taste of, wow, they really were treated like dog shit for serving their country. And this movie, if it helped them get through it, and I think it has helped a few of them get through it, it was a wonderful movie to put out there. But I'm like with Clint too. I'm like, man, that doesn't look like foreign internal defense, man. I'm sure they're doing this. That's not a finish. Well, again, moving on. What I get into next is, and this is what I think it was the worst acted military movie ever, but it was the most tactically and technically accurate. And it was, and I do know, actually, I do know Scott Weimer. I know Wymie from Act of Valor. He's a great guy. Love that guy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So Clint, what did you on Act of Valor? I still like, man, if I just got to get through the acting part. And the senior master chief, he was the worst actor in the whole thing. I gotta get through his parts, but I tell you what, the teamwork and just the tactics, it's amazing. But I don't know, you're from the teams, man. What did you think on that?
You have to remember that whole production started as recruiting videos, and
No
then
shit.
it grew out of control into this movie thing, and the Admiral and Warcom kept kind of saying, hey, let's just take it to the next level, the next level, and the next level. And so it became the baseline of, like, you know, when our head shed started to get upset about No Easy Day and people writing about Bin Laden, every single argument went back to Act of Valor because it was so supported by Warcom and grew into this movie, which it was never supposed to be.
Wow, I didn't know that. Huh.
And then, you know, so then it basically shut down the head shed from telling guys, you can't do this, you can't do that, because they actively supported a fucking full-blown movie that gave up,
Yeah.
you know, you're seeing everything in there. You know,
Well,
you're seeing a lot of the capabilities that no one needs to see all that. You know what I mean?
Well, that's
Yeah.
what did they do? What did they do on? And that's was the going into that. How did they get that cleared? I mean, you're seeing tactics. You're seeing all the equipment we use. I mean, that's spot on.
Yeah.
Just the missions. How did they get that through? And what happened amongst the teams when you guys saw that? When you're like, holy shit, they're giving everything OPSEC. They're giving it away in a movie. Here's our entire intel to the Al Qaeda.
Well, when you're obviously active duty guys, we were like, what the fuck? Especially started seeing the dudes that are in it, because just like your community, there's a story for every guy.
Sure.
You know, you see, and you're like, oh, I know. Yeah, that had me right in front of me one time, you know, or whatever, you know what I mean? So of course you are just like you guys, you immediately start turning the microscope on every single team guy that was in the movie. But overall, yeah, no one liked it. We were like, how the fuck did this happen? And that's what opened the door for every other team guy to start doing everything under the sun, right? It really was that movie, even though there was already stuff before it and there'll always be stuff after it. But because it was so heavily supported by the ad time, that became really our own nemesis, because now you've got SEALs getting out and doing everything under the sun now, and there's no regulation because of that movie supported by
I had no idea. I had no clue that's what it was, and that's unbelievable. Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know if I like it as much as I used to now. Now it kind of pisses me off. Like, holy shit, that's kind of fucked up.
Guys in there fucking active duty.
Well, yeah.
I mean, they were like asked to, hey, you're going to be in these recruiting videos. Then it turned into a fucking movie.
Have you ever talked to any of them? Did they know that, or did they feel like they were duped? They're like, holy shit.
Well, I think if anything, they were duped on the money they should be making.
Oh, shit. That's hell yeah. Fucking Hollywood.
Yeah. So, I mean, they got a lot of, they had, you're talking U.S. assets being used in Hollywood production, right? Taxpayer dollars being used in Hollywood production. So, yeah, it's a little odd.
I never really thought of damn Hollywood sons of bitches.
That's a good one, because we're learning new insight into these that I didn't think we would. And it's awesome to hear about this type of stuff. Let's keep it moving, because like I said, we got a lot of movies to hit here. One that I added, and I remember Debbie Rashawn spoke about it on the episode way back when she was on. I figured I'd add it here. I've heard a lot of opinions, good and bad. The Hurt Locker.
Dale, I did. I did, and Dale, but I know the tactical part of it is awful. I mean, the EOD part, maybe, I don't know. But I've never met an EOD guy that's a sniper. I've never met an EOD guy that they clear buildings by themselves. That was awful. And whoever the tactical advisor on that was, and it was terrible. It was on that side. And then also the portrayal of the contractors. That was a joke. Oh my gosh, that was so you kid. Yeah, I was a contractor many years at that time too, And we were never in a Land Cruiser driving around the desert on our own, just looking for people to snatch. Maybe on some of the Polar Quest or the PQ or some of the other CI, maybe they were doing that. But I'll be honest, I've never met anybody outside of an active duty element, DevGru, green, red, that were doing things like that. But it also wasn't just in one Land Cruiser. I mean, it was an actual operation. But the one thing they did get was when he was home shopping and he's trying to pick the cereal and he's trying to say, oh my gosh, what I understood that, especially from my early days. Like, I am here picking cereal. This is mundane. This is, what am I doing here? And that was when I really was doing a lot of deploying. So I wanted to be overseas. I didn't want to be home. That's when I had my firstborn kid too. So I understood that, playing with my son, but not really wanting to be home. You know, you want to be gone. I don't know, Clint, did you ever see it? Did you ever see Hurt Locker at all? And
yeah, I did, and I agree. I mean, I think obviously they had to spice up EOD guys, right? I mean, really, if you look at it, and you guys, we've always had EOD guys at the back of the train, right? And we all have,
of course,
that's their job, and but everything they do it's kind of boring, right? It doesn't make, you know. So they had to add in the rest to make a damn movie, you know. But for the most part, it's not like, you know, wearing that Michelin man suit, walking around, you know. Yeah, that's it. They got
the tactical part too that got me on that is, if you watch it, Jeremy Renner's supposed to be a former Ranger, so he's got a combat scroll, but he's an E6 or E7, and I'm like, well, wait a second, where's his tab then? If he's that high up in a rank and E6, he just came from Ranger Battalion, he's got a scroll. Motherfucker's got to have a tab, because he wouldn't have made E4 without getting kicked out of the Ranger Battalion without his tab. And as honestly, as soon as I saw that too, I'm like, fuck, they fucked this thing up.
How did they get that stuff wrong, do you think? I mean, because there's got to be military advisors on the set, I would think. Do you think either they're unqualified or it just slips their mind?
I don't know. You got to give me your opinion, guys. I got my opinions, and just from being on a set with one of the original military advisors.
I mean, my guess is they had an EOD guy, but they didn't have someone that does the basics.
There you
go. Yeah. I'm with you. My thing is, and Harry Humphreys is right now. I mean, he's the man that does everything.
Yeah.
He did our movie. And he started with The Rock, which honestly, The Rock, even though it's not a military movie, at that time, it probably was the most tactically accurate movie when it did have the military personnel in it with the SEALs and the Marines. And that was Harry Humphreys.
Oh yeah, big time.
And he's getting older though now. So I think Clint, there's an opening, buddy. You probably need to start.
Kevin Kent's got that job.
Oh, Kevin! Oh shit! Yeah. Is he losing a little bit? Is he starting to?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen him in a while, but he's definitely been with Harry for forever now.
If you watch 13 Hours, guys, Kevin is the big guy. He's a State Department officer, big guy with the beard. Kevin is a great guy. He was on set and he helped out a bunch.
Another one I want to get to, we're going back and forth, Army and Navy. I thought this would be a good one to get Clint's, response on. And I actually don't know, and I don't know if I've ever asked you if you crossed paths with Chris Kyle. I mean, you had a very long military career in the SEALs. So American Sniper.
Yeah, I knew Chris. He was at Team 3 with me. He's a new guy. His first deployment was my third, and that's when we went into Iraq. And he was in my sister platoon. Both of us being from Texas, we became fast friends, and he was just a great guy. Obviously, he'd already had a history, hunting, and already knew how to manage and handle a rifle. So it made him a standout when he went through sniper school. And he's definitely a crazy risk taker kind of guy. And I felt like the movie portrayed his personality and his background really well. And then, of course, the rest, like we already discussed at the beginning, when you take 335 pages of a book and you try to compress it into 2 hours, you've got to do a lot of creative stuff in order to make it look seamless. It made it look like he's deploying on his own almost, right? He's like, I got to go over there and it's done, when reality is that was over years of deployments, right? So And then there's been a lot of talk on, you know, even Chris's own accuracy with some of his stuff, you know, I've seen out there. And personally, I don't care, right? I mean, whatever he said or whatever the real numbers or I don't know. And by that time, I had already, you know, when he was on probably his second or third deployment, I was leaving SEAL Team 3. So I lost track of whatever the hell else he had going on. And I went out to the East Coast. So, but I felt like, you know, as far as tactics and the way that we did the Overwatch for Marines that were doing daytime operations, I mean, that was the moneymaker for special operations, was going, hey, we don't necessarily have to go out at night. We can go during the day. Yeah. That was like the first time to go, oh, we don't have to use the cover of darkness like we've been told our whole fucking life, you know. And they started, no, let's just get out and fight. And that's Jocko, right? Jocko was the first guy to say, we're not fucking just sticking with the night. We're going out during the day too. And then that just opened up the door to just op after op after op after op. Once that daytime door was open, then boom, the snipers were fucking working like crazy. Anyway, and obviously it benefited him because, you know, he did get a metric shit ton of kills.
Yeah. Hey, Dale, you know, you watched it, I guess, watching that, but then also you were in day and night urban firefight as well.
Well, that was and that was new for us too. You know, I mean, that was all new for us because every bit of training we had up until the point we went to the compound to do that urban training was all, you know, post Panama. So, you know, we were in the woods all the time. So, you know, urban combat was really new to us. And, you know, besides that, once or twice a year that we got to go to the shoot house and you know, and do a little bit, and, you know, and at that time, you know, we probably weren't the greatest, you know, asset to be entering buildings, but that training at the compound really kind of, you know, put us ahead and really helped lead the way to, you know, to get you guys to where you guys were actually experts, you know?
No, it was. No, I agree. I don't think anybody's expert. People just get better at other things just because they do it more. But did you see Lone Survivor at all? And if you did, what did you as a Ranger thinking? And because we had people out there, we're not trying to be assholes. It's just you are thinking it that way. I do. I think of it. It's a Marine movie, Navy movie. I look at the personalities, which I get. I understand the brotherhood, but you do look at it from a different perspective.
I do in
the branch.
And I see, like, I looked at the decision making really is what bothered me. You know, not tying up the herder. You know what I'm saying? And leaving them there for a little while so they can.
Oh, you're talking about not American Sniper. You're talking about Lone Survivor. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, you said Lone Survivor.
Yeah.
Did we talk about Lone Survivor, Eric?
You mentioned Lone Survivor. You just mentioned Lone Survivor.
Hold on, let me have another drink of coffee, dude. I'm sorry, I'm fucked up.
It's fine. I mean, we can
transition it. Let's do it. Let's roll.
That's fine. That's what I thought you were doing.
No, that's how us Rangers do it. We're fucking chasing lights on the wall. Hey, squirrel.
Dude. Seriously, chasing women, you know.
But no, go. No, let's roll into Lone Survivor because we're rolling it because American style. I think Clint hit the nail on the head too. With Lone Survivor.
He covered it well. But yeah, as far as Lone Survivor goes, I mean, you know, I love the camaraderie. You know, I love the way they looked out for each other and loved each other. But man, some of the decisions up on that mountain, I thought they could have done it a little better and possibly gotten out. But their comms were down too. So I ultimately the decision not to tie those guys up was the downfall.
And was that and Clint, on your side of the house, you know, do you guys ever AR that? Did you AR? Did you know anything behind the scenes? Did that actually happen, or is that something they just put in the movie that didn't happen? I know you weren't there, but just we police our own. So as a Ranger, I know we would be policing that ourselves if we saw.
Oh yeah,
I think well, number one, you know, we're talking about movies. We're not talking about operations. Right. So,
right.
Got to, just in case people listening get all upset, we're not critiquing operations, critiquing movies, but I felt like the similarities between Lone Survivor and Black Hawk Down were accurate in the fact that it ultimately went back to leadership, like
Gotcha.
leadership
Yeah.
that were bad from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
You had an area in Afghanistan where those guys were told, hey, you probably shouldn't go there, right? It's pretty freaking nasty. And they went ahead and kept pushing that train like, yeah, we're going to keep going. In reality, like outside of the movie, as you guys know, you sometimes just get into this op rhythm.
Yeah.
And then once you kind of get into it, you know, it's a couple of deployments in, it becomes almost like this check in the box. Like, yeah, we're going to get guys out in the field. So they took a number of guys who had never really worked together before, right? They didn't clearly identify that in the movie, but those guys that was a hodgepodge of dudes.
Oh, I didn't know that. No, I thought that was a pretty tight team. I didn't know that. Oh my gosh.
No, they were all put together, you know, and then they get put into an area to go do a mission where, you know, they were all junior guys, right? And we all know there's not an RNS mission in those mountains that you're not going to get rolled up by a goat herder. So at the time, the goat herder thing was already a scenario that had been played out 100 times before that actually happened, you know? So I feel like on the scripting side in the movie, yeah, they kind of put some stuff that just didn't make sense to me. Like, the only choices is either, you know, what was it? Shoot them or let them go.
Shoot him or tie him up and leave him there.
Our SOP was you zip tied them, you kept them with you, you went to the extract point, the helicopter lands, you sit on the helicopter, then you throw the guy a pair of medical shears to cut themselves free. And once you're off the ground, then you let people go, right? I mean, so there was some stuff that, you know, I felt in the movie that wasn't exactly accurate to SOPs, and it kind of made the guys look like they didn't know what they were doing.
Well, that's what's hard with the movie. And that's why I'm wondering with Marcus, if he was an advisor on it, it's something that I'm like, man, I wouldn't put that in there because you're making us look like a bunch of idiots and we're better than this. And it did, because I thought the same when I saw it. I'm like, why didn't they do that? But then like we said, well, shit, it's a movie. It's a movie, so. Well, shit, maybe that's why they kept it in there, because I couldn't see seasoned Rangers, SEALs, PJ, anybody doing that and not having an SOP in place, like you said, where this is what we're going to do. Take him with us and we'll let him go once we get far enough away and we're evaling out, we're exfilling.
Yeah.
But
like I said, that from the head shed down, that thing had failed before it even began, you know, and that was the unfortunate part in the real world. Like, it was just, I think people just got into a cycle, like just send guys out the door, go do some RNS, come back, go do some RNS, come back, go, you know, and then that one happened to get out of hand.
Any history with Marcus Luttrell, Clint?
No, I've just met him a couple times, but yeah, nothing. I didn't know him during all that.
Okay.
I came back actually, the funny part was after he was, me and one of my buddies, we were already in the whole special activities realm at that point. And so I was in Germany after they rescued him. He was on the C-17 I was on, you know, and I talked to him briefly at that moment in time, but for the most part left him alone on the ride home. But yeah, right after we flew back together. I was flying back from a different deal, you know, so I was in like civilian clothes, and you're probably looking at me like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah. And I was just going to say, we should also mention, you know, because we went right into Lone Survivor, but for American Sniper, rest in peace, of course, to Chris Kyle, and should mention, of course, regardless of any inaccuracies or any of that stuff, the way that Chris Kyle died, I mean, so tragic, just trying to help another veteran out on the range, you know, going shooting, and this maniac kills him. I mean, and I think, yeah, that definitely don't want to overlook that part of the movie. So rest in peace to, of course, a friend of yours, from what you were saying.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, insane. And we'll go into an Army one. I figure we'll do a fun one because we haven't done one yet. Major Payne.
Yes, that is the most accurate movie ever. Honestly, Dale, I know that's more your speed. I still love Major Payne. Love that movie. But Dale, yeah, hit it, man. And tell me, I know you've seen it, you goofy bastard. I know you've seen it right now. The accuracy, of course not, but is there anything that you could say, you know what, or it brought you back to basic training, or it brought you back to a drill sergeant or anything?
The old drill sergeants, you know what I'm saying? And there was no softer side. I don't know. No. But man, I'm telling you, a lot of it reminded me of the Spec 4 Mafia. You know what I'm saying? His attitude was just like, fuck you guys. You know, this is the way it's done. And if you don't like it,
you're gonna make you pee your pants. I remember making a guy piss his pants because I wouldn't let him go pee. I mean, I did. I was that turd Spec 4 kind of guy sometimes. But just I don't know. I just loved it because it did says parody the military a bit. It did, but it also brought out a lot of the humorous side that we all have in the military. I do. I really believe that we have that. And honestly, we say that stuff when we're downrange. We'll parody or we'll repeat lines of those movies just to get through stressful times. And I did. I love the way he portrayed himself on there. And I love that, you know, I still use it with my kids today. When their leg's hurting, I'll say, give me your finger. You're going to feel a little bit of a pinch just to take your mind off this hurt. I'm going to make your finger hurt. But
oh yeah. Yep. I still use that with my kids, man.
I'm going to say I don't know. Clint, you have kids? You don't have kids. Do you have kids?
Yeah. I've got a daughter.
Is that just a Oh, so that doesn't work. The little bit, is that just a Ranger thing where we threaten to break our kids' bones so some other priest doesn't, or is that just a stupid Rangers that do that, man?
So hard you're stupid. That's what that is.
I know, hard to retard. You crossed the line, man. I don't know, Clint. I know. Is that something you've seen, or is that something, or is there something you can take away from a silly movie like that? Even though I don't see it making fun of the military at all. I think it's just taking a lighthearted look. There's a negative way to make fun of the military. That is not one. To me. It's still, because Major Payne's still a badass, regardless. In being a Marine, I wish we had Rudy here. I'd be busting his balls with that right now. Yeah. But is there anything you could pull away from that, or is there something like, man, I don't like those kind of movies at all? I wish they wouldn't make.
I like them. Yeah, I like them. I think it's the humor, right? It's that dark sense of humor that we all have. You know, it highlights that. And then you've got the serious side of it in Full Metal Jacket, right? I mean, so you take the two, and they're both accurate as far as, but one's leaning more towards the comical side. The other one's leaning more towards pretty hardcore at the same time. Wow. That dark sense of humor is a must.
It's always, roll right into that. I can't believe I completely forgot Full Metal Jacket. One of the greatest, especially one of the greatest. Yeah, it was because basic training.
Yeah, I originally wrote down just Army and Navy, and when we knew you guys, but I know that's a classic. So yeah,
and I think basic training, honestly, at that time, that's what we all thought it was. I don't know, honestly, basic training was, I don't know if it was that difficult, but there were still guys getting hit. There were still guys getting beat when I went through in the 90s. And it was the Army. I don't know. When do you guys take Full Metal Jacket? I'd kind of like to get into that.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty badass. And I think it definitely sets the tone for what boot camp probably used to be. But like, I went through Navy boot camp. So, all we did was march around in the snow for like 8 weeks straight, just marching in the snow. That's all I remember. Like, the entire 8 weeks was basically rehearsal for graduation day. I'm like, what the fuck is the purpose of this?
That's hilarious.
That's Navy boot camp.
That still kind of sucks, marching around in the snow. That still kind of blows too. Because you're in Great Lakes, right? You're still doing that in Great Lakes. I get a side note here. Why the hell is Navy boot camp in the Midwest? I know we're on a lake. I've always wanted to ask that. What's the reasoning behind?
No clue. I have I'm sure there's a great historical answer to that, but I sure as hell don't know. And I think I was asking myself the same question, like, what the hell, like sideways snow? Like, I didn't understand what that had to do with the Navy, except the fact that snow is water. Snow is water. Yeah, snow is water. It makes perfect sense.
Well, Dale, I want because you went through even before I did in basic training in the Army actually, was it late 80s or was it right the early 90s? 90,
Yeah,
89,
I went in January of '91.
and
So
and you know, Fort Banning, of course.
Yeah.
Actually, I went in '95, and like I said, they were still beating. And I don't mean just beating. I don't mean, but I mean getting physical with with recruits. I saw a guy get thrown across the desk by a drill sergeant on day one, which made me immediately think of Full Metal Jacket. And I thought to myself, holy shit, I didn't think they did this Full Metal Jacket stuff anymore. The recruiter told me they don't touch you anymore. And then I see this kid from New York get catapulted over a desk. What did you see, man? And again, did your basic training, and was it anything like Arlie Ermy? Did you have an Arlie Ermy drill sergeant like that?
It was you know, it was definitely tougher than it is now, but I mean, I enjoyed it. All our drill sergeants were all Rangers, so I knew that's what I was going to be. Yeah. I was fucking motivated. Hell, even as a private, I was fucking motivated. I didn't drink, so on Saturdays I'd go out and ruck run the fucking airfield, you know, and while everybody else was recovering from their hangovers. I just wanted to be a soldier, and so to me, none of the yelling or anything bothered me at all. You know, it was just one of those things where I didn't even mind Ranger School. It wasn't so bad.
Well, fuck you. I hated Ranger School. You're not me.
I was a Winter Ranger.
And I hated that too. Freezing in Florida. You're not supposed to freeze in Florida, and I was freezing in Florida. It sucked.
Yeah, I was a road bridge commander in Florida, and that fucking sucked. That sucked. I was the last one they pulled across the fucking river, and then by the time I got over there, everybody else had already fucking changed into dry clothes, and I didn't have a chance.
There, it sucks for that's how it goes, man. You've been hitting the head way too many times since then. I can already tell.
Still today.
I was gonna say, next one I want to hit on here, we'll do another Navy one, is Zero Dark 30, and we had Kristen Beck on recently, and I know Kristen Beck was one of the people who had something to do with what led to the capturing of bin Laden, and according to her, a lot of people were rolled into one character in that movie. I know that was one of Kristen's criticisms. What did you think of Zero Dark 30, Clint?
Well, you guys know, I mean, I was at the commander and all that, but yeah, I mean, it's a touchy subject, to be honest with you. Like, it's like, there's no one that was there that actually likes talking about it because it's created so much drama for our community. But I thought the movie in itself was as accurate as you could make it. You know, there's some parts in there that I even thought was a little too much for the movie. Like, I don't think it needed to be in there, but but overall, like, once again, when you talk about the characters and the way the guys act and their attitude, and even the female who spent 10 years plus tracking and did all that intelligence work, I mean, that's what it's really about, is her, right? And the SEAL component is just like the grand finale, but he really did bust her ass in staying. Like, she did not budge when people tried to get her to kind of like stop what you're doing. I know for a fact that she kept on going until she won, and so I feel like that part was very accurate.
So that's what's interesting, that you're saying that's completely accurate, because like I said, interviewing Kristen Beck, according to Kristen, she says that's the work of a lot of people rolled into one character.
Well,
of course. I mean, I'm talking in generalities. You had the entire United States government working on that particular target, but when you talk about who's leading it, like, individually, I mean, that part is pretty damn real. Like, that girl, that girl didn't switch out 10 times. It was the same person, you know what I mean? Whereas all of us, we rotate in and out all the time, right? We're 6 months in a country, 1 year in a country, and then we're gone. But for her, she was on it. And I felt like that part was pretty good.
You know what, and people, if you've watched the beginning of it, that first part was GRS guys. And I knew some of those guys. I knew the guys that blew up in Coast. That is, that was, you know, Doc was over there. And I remember, you know, Scotty was there. And that actually, from and I was in Kabul when that happened at that time. And from the reports that we got in GRS, that was a huge learning thing for us. And it was also a huge learning thing for us to not go to chiefs, because we used to search guys. We would never let them on bases like Coast and Kandahar, Gecko, where they would roll all the way in because of that exact thing that happened that day, where we allowed the guy. We would always go search them out at an outer base if they were coming on base, because it was easier to lose two of us than it was to lose what happened. And we learned from that part there, and the movie got it pretty spot on. That chief of base, another CI chief of base, looking for stripes, superseded Southside, which is the team leader there, and he was an actual solid team leader on the GRS guys, and overruled Southside. Southside didn't push back hard enough. Not his fault. We learned from it. We learned that sometimes, hey, we're gonna have to take the heat. You got to push back all the way, and that never happened again. But watching that, where the chief said, "No, we're bringing this guy all the way on. No, because we don't want to offend him." That's what happened in that explosion, and it killed Jeremy. It killed Jeremy, which former SEAL guy as well, and it killed Southside and it injured Doc Wyatt. And honestly, that part of it, that part was actually very accurate. It was, and it showed what not to do. And that's why, again, from there on out, we never budged on something like that. Anytime the chief would say, "No, you're bringing them all the way on," we had a trump card that said, and it sucks that we had to lose guys to do that. We had a trump card that said, "Nope, fuck you. No, they are not coming out. We're going out there. We're searching them out where we need to search them." And it was a hell lesson learned. I liked that part of the movie, not because of the deaths, but because of, honestly, as an agency, being an agency okayed movie, I'm surprised they let it show them in a bad light in that way. I really was like, oh yeah, they can't show that chief. And then even the meeting in Pakistan where the Marriott blew up, or the Sheraton, whatever, that nice hotel we used to stay on in Islamabad, that was fun. I mean, that I don't know if those two were actually there at that time, but it did blow up at that time because of, again, GRS small community. When something like that happens, the whole GRS community is alerted because we may need to switch guys out. And having a chief go looking for stripes though, and trying to up theirs and sacrificing security and safety to get status. Yeah, that's fucking seriously accurate. And I really am surprised. And you know, Clint, because you did some SAD stuff, I don't feel that it wasn't sensationalized at all. I saw it a lot with chiefs. I saw some great chiefs too. We had some awesome chiefs too, but I saw that where the agency would risk security for personal gain. And obviously I was a part of that, you know, even in Libya. Did you feel, I don't think they overdid it. You can disagree with me at all. It doesn't bother me. But did you see that being in an agency? Did you see that as sort of did you see that accurate as well? Or were you like, man, they really made these agencies look shitty on that one? That
well,
really
I found it interesting that there was actually two active CIA folks on set the whole time, making sure that it was accurate, right? Now, of course, that's what I heard from, you know, good friends, but yeah, I agree, man. I felt like, you know, they gave the you know, both sides, the good, the good, bad, and the ugly, and I think that's why it made it such a great movie.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I never got, you know, deal with the CIA much as far as personally, but seeing the last scene where they actually went in the assault, I love seeing them, you know, destroy the helicopter, you know, thermite grenade, you know, I mean, and the C4. I'm like, accurate. Then as they were assaulting, all the double taps from every SEAL that passed those dead bodies, I was like, you know, I don't know that they should probably show the real world what we do, you know, but it's accurate.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I remember Matty Waters even saying that. We had Sergeant, my buddy from 275, saying that's what they did. They would always clean up, you know, Ranger Battalion, you assault, and then that second squad comes up and cleans up. And I remember him saying he had his leg blown off, but he's still hearing his squad leader in the back, shoot that dude again, shoot that dude again. But that's spot on. It really is. And that's what you're taught. I agree. I you know, the agency part of it, and I have to take my personal feelings out of when I watch Zero Dark 30, because I really have disdain. I really do. I have to. but I have to take my own personal, like, okay, they made her look a lot cooler than what she actually was. But that I don't know. That is a subjective view of mine because of some of it still have some of those feelings for the agency itself. But you're right. Having someone stay on for 10 years, and I'm sure she had the option to even get off, and she stayed on it for 10 years. Sarah, the targeter we had on, that reminded me of her, the CIA targeter. That's the kind of operative Sarah is. She would stay on it for 10 years. But look what she's doing now. How long has Benghazi been? She doesn't even work for the agency, and she's still out there targeting all the people that attacked us. I mean, and I agree with Clint, the 10-year mark. I get that because I worked with people like that, and Sarah was one of them. That is just that tenacious, like, you're not getting away. You know, hell those who have, what's it? The scorn of a woman. That's the whole verb.
Yeah. Hell hath no fury like the scorn of a woman. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, there you go. Don't piss off a woman CIA case officer or targeter, especially if you're a terrorist, because they're going to find you. Even if they're not working for the agency, they're going to fucking find you. I don't know. Next, we'll go next. I would beat that one.
Yeah, for sure. And I was going to ask Clint, because I just see you here at the airport. Are you still good on time? I don't know how long
if you got
your
a bunch
changeover is.
Yeah, I'll probably bail here in just about a minute.
Okay, well, let's do one last Navy one then, if that's cool. I'm actually, you know what? Let's just do Top Gun 1 and 2, because Top Gun 2 is the most recent military movie. I thought those were great, and I also thought Top Gun 2 proved more recently that you could have a, you know, pro-military, very masculine movie, even though there were female characters, and not do something that was more targeted towards this like social justice movement. And it did tremendously. And hopefully we see more movies like that. So obviously you weren't a pilot. It would have been great to have John Waters on to talk about that aspect. But what do you think of both those movies?
Yeah, I think they're great, man. I mean, when you're talking about like taking jets and we're not talking CG, right? There was only one part of that thing that was CG, and it was the whole Black Star part at the beginning, right? That was all CG. That aircraft, all that part. But the rest of it is, you know, true like cinematic just art, right? Just like they did in the first movie, right? Because he wanted it to be as accurate as the first and the second. I felt like the script was almost duplicated, though. If you really break it down, it's kind of the same script, just, you know, fast forward in time. But man, I mean, you cannot, like, you know, have gone to a bunch of different JTAC schools, and the one that we go to out in Fallon, working with, you know, Top Gun level pilots. I mean, it is much different than working with, you know, your Mark 1 Motto, you know, F-18 pilot, right? I mean, there is a difference between the two, and having them work the range, you rack and stack 22 of them, you're on comms, you're rolling them in -1, -2 each time. And those moves that they're making where they flip over and look down at the earth through their canopy like that and still be able to orientate themselves. Like I'm a dyslexic motherfucker. Like I would what the hell am I? Like, you know, that
they push gardens fucks me up, you know.
And these are 20-something-year-old kids, right? I mean, they're not even 30 yet, and they're flying these machines just like, you know, people play game, you know, the gamers these days.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ass, man. But yeah, I mean, I got utmost respect for naval aviators. They are badasses at what they do for sure.
Yeah, that's why it would be great to have John Waters on if we do this another time, because he's someone who's actually lived that and done that. He puts it up on his Instagram. You could see him doing those moves up in the air. He's amazing. But if you have to go, Clint, I know there's so much stuff that you could plug that you're up to. Can You Survive This podcast, Violent Nomad clothing line, which I have a Violent Nomad shirt. Those are great. 100 Deadly Skills. What stuff do you want to plug here before you get out of here? There's a lot that you're always up to.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, everything I've got going on is at ClintEmerson.com. And of course, my Instagram is kind of my primary. But yeah, there's probably too much out there at this point. So, you know,
that's a good thing, man. Being an entrepreneur and having multiple facets, that's a good thing. Well, again, that's awesome. I know doing podcasts in airports or interviews suck. So I appreciate you doing that, man, especially in O'Hare, been there. And so that's awesome that you at least find the time to come on when you're there in O'Hare. Thanks, buddy.
Of
I really
course.
appreciate it, man.
I was at O'Hare.
Nice to meet you, brother.
Not the nicest airport for sure. I was gonna wear my Violent Nomad shirt, but I should say for the people watching video, if they want to see, you're wearing a Violent Nomad shirt right now. All the shirts that you've put out are badass. Yeah, say something so it pans to you, because it's gonna pan to me.
There you go. So there you go. I'm talking. There it is. Violent Nomad.
Yeah, those shirts are awesome. I love all the Violent Nomad shirts. So Clint, thanks so much for doing this, man, and taking the time.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy. Be safe,
Great.
brother.
Hope you guys are enjoying this show so far. As you can see, Clint Emerson had to duck a little early, but we got plenty more to go with Dale Sizemore. Plenty of more movies to cover. And I got to tell you, my current favorite Bubs Naturals product has been the apple cider vinegar gummies. I mean, I think for cleansing your body, we should say, they're great, but don't take too many of them. They do taste great because you're gonna, it's not gonna be pretty. But in terms of fast. I have to say, and you could Google this stuff, but it's evident when you take these, it is a real thing, mucoid plaque that is stored in your body that you need to get out of your system. And I'm sure you know all about that with your condition with IBS and all that. But that stuff you're probably not going to get out of your system with your regular diet, and taking apple cider vinegar, not the best thing in the world. These gummies taste amazing. You'll want to eat the whole jar, but they are powerful. So you should not do that. But I take them, and I think after like a couple of weeks of taking them twice a day, you're going to be noticing some belly fat gone, and you're going to have more energy. So they have a lot of great supplements, of course, but currently my favorite has been the apple cider vinegar gummies. You cannot go wrong with those.
And as you can see in the background, I didn't plant those there, guys. Those are where I make my coffee in the morning. You see the MCT oil and the collagen, but you're right on the apple cider. And having ulcerative colitis, the only way that I have to prep to get that stuff out before I go get a scope is you got to take all this terrible medication. But I'll be honest with you, when I'm prepped, I feel a lot better. I have a ton more energy, but you don't want to do that every day. You don't want to take a bunch of colon cleanse every day.
No.
Taking the apple cider vinegars makes it gradual, and it does clean your lower intestines and your colon where you process your food. And if you're able to keep that healthy, you do have a ton more energy. And I can tell you from example, from doing it the medical way, which I have to do before I get a colonoscopy, or doing it the natural way with the apple cider vinegar gummies, you do have a ton more energy if you keep that lining healthy and not full of all that residual crap that stays in there. And but like Ian said, right on the head, 2 a day. That's it. You're going to want to eat the whole bottle because they're so dang good.
They really are.
But you don't do it, or you'll be sitting on the pot the whole day. So just do your 2, and gradually you'll clean yourself out, and you'll see your energy levels rise. It's not a coincidence.
Yeah, and on top of that, we were speaking earlier with Beard Vet with Mission. They really do have a strong mission, which is giving back to the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation.
Yeah.
I was looking at Sean's Instagram, and they even had that event recently where you got to see the children of military veterans, the children of fallen Navy SEALs, in some cases, fallen operators, who are getting scholarships through the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation. So when you're supporting the brand, you're supporting something that you're going to feel good about with yourself, but you can also feel good about the fact that you're giving back to an important veteran charity with the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation. So check them out, guys. BubsNaturals.com. Use the promo code Battleline. You're going to get 20% off. BubsNaturals.com. That's the best deal, is when you go there and use the promo code Battleline for 20% off. Also, every show of ours is sponsored by Fort Scott Munitions. Fort Scott Munitions is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition. I have some right here. I know you usually have something with
you got the tins.
I've had these on display right here in I guess what you'd say is the studio, this little closet space here. But this ammo tumbles upon impact, which is their trademark in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. It was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design, and was found that not only did it outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in every state. Also on the website, you'll see it there, fsm.com. But if you click on the dealer locator, just type in your zip code, you're going to find something by you. Even by me here in Connecticut, which is like literally the least gun-friendly state, besides maybe like Hawaii or something. But yeah, use the exclusive promo code Battleline at fsm.com, and you're going to get 15% off your order. Only available to listeners of the Battleline podcast. We can't speak more highly of them.
No, guys, and check them out. They are very responsive to your requests. They have changed a lot of ammo, not changed it. They've added different grains to their ammo. So if you want a different grain, which accumulates, which equals, a different power that you want, or a different size of an ammo that you want, write them, ask them. So as far as the grain size, but the grain size, the amount of powder that they have in there. So ask them and they will make it different. If you've gone on, they've made different grainages of different types of ammo, and not any other gun maker is going to respond to you like that. They will. So Fort Scott Munitions, best ammo out there, and probably the best customer service in the ammo industry as well, which says a lot for them. So yeah, tremendous company.
Yeah, and as we always say, the Kraft family, great family run business. I can't wait to be back there, hopefully soon. So once again, fsm.com, promo code Battleline for 15% off, ammo, merchandise, all of that. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and this podcast, the Battleline Podcast, as you see the flag right behind me. Beautiful. So, yeah, with that, let's get right back to the show. Clint is gone, but it'll be both of us and Dale Sizemore. All right, we'll keep going with the three of us then.
Well, we got, honestly, can we get to it? Because I've been dying to know Dale's on. Have you seen We Were Soldiers, Once and Young, the Mel Gibson movie?
Man, I fucking loved it. Of course, Kenny Thomas was in it, so that
was he. Really, was he in it? Which
dude.
Which guy was he?
Kenny was. So I think the very first night when Mel Gibson was walking around the patrol base, Kenny was one of the soldiers in the foxhole. Yep,
that's right.
Yep.
I should go into that. And Kenny, out of all your guys, and honestly, I've talked to other, of course, the country, Floyd doesn't really care, not for Kenny, just doesn't care. I don't think the last
book. Yeah,
what,
yeah. It was the book. Yeah.
What do you think? Are there, and there are there? What do you think? Because Kenny did want to, from what I understand, just from what I've seen, and we speak on kind of the same speaking circuit as well.
Yep.
And he plays that damn guitar all the time. He's out there on Fox playing it. Did he always want to do that, brother? Did he want to be in the Hollywood scene? Did he want to have?
I don't know about Hollywood, but he used to play downtown Columbus on the weekends. When we were home, and we all fucking went down there and supported him. And I love Kenny. I mean, Kenny, I'm still close with Kenny. I was out in Ohio working on the pipeline, and he was 15 minutes from me. So we finally got together. Met his wife and his kid, and but Kenny's still the same guy that he was in battalion to me. Just still laid back, always cares about everybody else. And
that's awesome.
I know there was some riffs with I think the fact, I think it was the fact that he didn't ask for anybody's input on the book.
Sure.
that really is just the real riff there. And it didn't put Dave in the greatest light, but Dave was a bad motherfucker.
No, Dave, the country's awesome.
I loved it.
Yeah, Floyd is a tough son of a bitch. I wouldn't fuck with Floyd.
Dude,
country.
Floyd is the second best saw gunner I know.
I know. That's well played, sir. Very well played. And I know he would say the same.
He would.
Hey, well, getting back to the We Were Soldiers, one thing that bothered me a little bit is they showed that lieutenant that had the Ranger tab, the go-getter that didn't listen to anybody, that did his own thing. Never. In fact, it's completely the opposite. If you got your Ranger tab, you're listening to your command. In my opinion, you have more discipline than that one that doesn't. That's the only thing. I love that movie though too. I loved it, and honestly, I still get choked up at the end of it all the time because the sacrifice and that everybody's dying and Mel Gibson being the last one on, last one out. That's leadership. That is what leadership. That's what we. But that's the only thing that bothered me is is the one lieutenant that died at the beginning because he was a go-getter and he's been to Ranger school. It's like, well, wait a second. If he's been to Ranger school, he should be listening to his command more so than the guys that haven't, because that's one of the things you're fucking graded on is to make sure you're following the hires command order. That's what you get. You get the hires and then you make your own order. And that bothered me.
Ranger school, there's always that one or two that slip by doing, absolutely nothing or the bare minimum. And
you're right. You're right.
Maybe that highlighted that guy.
maybe that's it. So there is a reason. And you're right, because there is always something. I think that's with any of the military movies we watch, is that there is always an anomaly that, except for the weapons manipulation, you fuck that up, you fuck it up. It's terrible. But if somebody makes a decision and it's not a decision that a Ranger would make or a SEAL would make or so forth, there is always that anomaly that would probably make that dumb decision or do something. So you can rationalize it. There is some cognitive dissonance that you can play to anything in a movie, and that we do. Yeah, you're right. Ian, we got another one?
We'll stick to some more Army stuff here. Man, so many great movies to cover. I think an all-time classic, people would say. Some would say one of the best movies of all time, Apocalypse Now.
Take it, man. That's team room movie.
I'm telling you, as a young kid, I mean, because that movie was out, long before, I joined the military. But man, I mean, that right there, if you're a kid that even aspires to be a soldier, I mean, that movie will push you over the edge.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what pushed me over the edge when I was watching, when the recruiter showed me films, man. I see these guys rowing down the river in camo, and I jumping out of airplanes. I'm like, fuck yeah, that's what I want to do. He's like, you want to be a Ranger? I'm like, sure.
You know what still gets you pumped up on Apocalypse Now is the helicopter scene with Robert Duvall. That is that is the ultimate pump up. See, I mean, they still even play it in movies. They played it in what's the one with Jake Gyllenhaal where he's a sniper? Gosh, come on, help me out here, guys. I know people out there know Jake. He was it was him about.
I'll do some Googling.
Yeah, took Jake Gyllenhaal. He was a sniper.
That wasn't the one on the mountain, was it?
No, not that. It was the one where it was more kind of a Hollywooded out.
Oh, Jarhead.
Oh. But with Jamie Foxx and I wish Rudy was here to explain. When they're about ready to go to war and they're getting pumped up, the movie that they're watching in the scene they pan to, and it happens in a lot of movies, is that helicopter scene. And honestly, that is pretty badass. And watching the helicopters, I do remember doing stuff with SOAR, with the Night Stalkers, and that's what it looked like. Honestly, with the little birds just flying everywhere, you got everybody else in a tight formation, but those little birds are just. And when you're riding off the side of a Black Hawk with your legs dangling out the side, you're just snap linked in. That is pretty badass. I don't know. What did you think on that helicopter scene? I know you guys did a lot of that stuff too.
Yeah, I fucking loved it, and I'm telling you, being a battalion, getting to work with the Night Stalkers all the time. Yeah. I mean, the whole time we were in Somalia, except for that last mission, I sat in the door by Tommy Fields, right by the door gunner, on that the left side of the bird, man. So all the pictures that I have of my bird, man, I just see my two little short little feet hanging down, you can tell which one's me,
Hey,
but
speaking of that, I know we're getting to Black Hawk Down a little bit, and we've talked about it, but was that pretty accurate as far as the Night Stalkers doing the gun runs and like all night keeping them off you? It was that, because it looked accurate. It looked like the stuff that I would assume they would be doing at that, but I just want to make sure they didn't say.
Chris, I'm telling you, even more than that, they're even more phenomenal than what they showed. Wow. I heard stories. I didn't see it, but and it was backed up by many of the guys when the one little bird came down to grab Dan Bush, and take him away. They said he grabbed his MP5 or whatever he had there, and he's leaning out of the helicopter, shooting down the road at and just kept that thing steady with one hand and one foot. I'm like, holy cow, man, that's just absolutely crazy. And then when they were, I think it was the second or third mission, Delta guys grabbed some guys and they had to load from the top of the building. and they had one skid on the edge of the building, and the Delta guys just loaded in. But I mean, every time that weight changes in there, you know, they have to adjust. So I mean, to be able to load a whole, you know, squad of guys on there and just on the edge of a building, it's just, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's one. I've never heard anything bad on a movie. Whenever the Night Stalkers are portrayed, they must have the best public affairs officers on, because I've never heard anybody get anything wrong on a Night Stalker. And there wasn't a ton of them, but even so, just like that, seeing that and like, man, yeah, they didn't really sensationalize the Night Stalkers. In fact, they probably could have sensationalized even more, because it would have even been more accurate. And that's how awesome they are. That just says how incredible.
The thing with that group is, even if you sensationalized it, it probably still wouldn't have gone far.
Still wouldn't have gone. Yeah, that's cool. All right, I guess that was burning in my head, so I just wanted to ask him again. Yeah.
Oh, for sure, man. This was one that Dale, that you brought up to me that you wanted to cover. Newer movie of the films we're talking about, 12 Strong.
Yeah. Great movie, and you know, I was talking to Willie Blazer, who owns Willie's Distillery out in Montana. He was a Seco guy, and then he went SF, but he knows, you know, some of those guys from.
Or you can say Mark actually speaks on the same bureau that I have. Mark, you can say Mark Nutch. Mark is the guy that Chris Hemsworth played, even though they made him another name. That's the real Mark. Actually, is a very good speaker. We speak with the same speaking bureau. Good guy. Yeah,
I went to a private dinner with him. And I got some pictures with him, and you know, we traded bottles of whiskey, and of course I made him write third best bat on there, because he's no first bat guy.
And the whiskey,
Mark's no first bat.
You know, Dale, and I'm sorry to say, Mark, Three Rangers whiskey is better than yours. I'm sorry, Whole Soldier. The bottle might look real cool. It is better than Lead Slinger. I'll give him that. It's a lot, but I have to say Three Rangers, and not because I'm a Ranger. I'm just it's
just smoother. It's a little smoother.
It is. It's a little. It is. It's not as woodsy. Not as wood. So, but anyway, keep going, man. Keep going.
Awesome. Yeah. So and I mean, Mark's a good dude. So after I love the movie beforehand, and then to know that a lot of that was pretty accurate, you know, coming from Mark, that is just, you know, and he did, you know, he's not one of those guys that is going to say, yeah, you know, we're the baddest in the world. He's like, we were just the first ones in. He said there were a whole bunch of SF guys, you know, over there also, but some of the stuff they did, you know, in the movie was pretty fantastic.
And that's, you know, working at the agency at that time when I was, you know, a few years after Dostum, the guy, I didn't get to know him personally, but I was around him and Saif a lot, and those guys, because we were trying to use them after they let Masood die, which we should have. After we were trying to use Dostum and Saif to go get Hekmatur and actually win the fight for us. And I have to say, how they portrayed Dostum. Not like I said, I wasn't buddies with him or nothing. I'm watching it from the outside. I never used to. That was pretty spot on. And Dostum liked his whiskey, man. Dostum liked his whiskey and his horse. In fact, I think he had syphilis. He did. And so when I watched that, I'm like, you know what? They really did, because I remember Dostum being whiskey and horse. That's and also he hated terrorists, dude, and the Taliban, and he wanted to crush them. And so I'm the same. I agree. I thought you know, as much as I'm saying, gosh, I don't want to say the Long Tabbers got their movie right, but I have to say, and knowing of Mark, I'm not as close as, you know, you probably talked to him more than I have, but just knowing him and his story and working with the same speaking bureau that we do, he's pretty, from what I understand, what I've seen, he's a pretty humble guy.
Yeah,
and I think they did, and I think also the movies that came out prior to 12 Strong. I mean, was that the last really war movie outside of Top Gun that came out? Because it came out like 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't, you know, there haven't even stick to mind that came out after that.
I think you're correct. I mean, in Top Gun, not really a war movie because it's fictional, you know, so.
But that, I think also that he being a smart, because he was a captain on the teams, and being also, I think he was smart because he got to see everything that went wrong and everything coming up. So they wanted to make sure that, you know, whatever we got wrong in 13 hours or whatever we didn't do to make sure was right, or Black Hawk Down or Lone Survivor or so forth, he could look back and say, okay, I got to do this right.
Yeah.
So what mistakes did they make so I don't make the same mistakes on my movie? And having Thor play is pretty cool too. I mean, having Chris Hemsworth, that's
my daughter's still drooling over it.
I know. But yeah, I agree.
Here's another one that I know you wanted to cover, Dale, and of course we have to cover Saving Private Ryan.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you, that was the first war movie that, and it came out after after Somalia, that I felt like they got all the sounds right. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
As I'm sitting there in there, it just like where it seemed like every war movie before that, the camera was always behind the shooters instead of downrange. And then I heard later that's what they did. They had the microphones downrange, so you could hear those bullets, snapping when they went by. And that's the real difference in real life and some of the older movies, is that when that bullet is close enough to and it's breaking the sound barrier, it's a snap, and you're like you don't even realize what it is. We realized soon after, but you know what I'm saying? Like the first time, you're like, what the hell was that?
And I think that's where I'm going. If I'm critical of 13 Hours, I wish we would have got more of that in there, because we didn't get the cracks and the snap. Not all the time. Where Saving Private Ryan, probably out of all the movies, did it the best. I agree. Out of just getting the sound effects and that first, when that first scene came out, no movie had done that before, where they just showed you actually in the action, where their beachhead landing scene. I remember that was pretty impressive, because that was the first movie that did it. And from the World War II guys that I talked to, the old Rangers that I talked to, they said, yeah, that was pretty freaking accurate. That was spot on. The only thing in Saving Private Ryan that I didn't think they get right, and it's the same thing with, like, We Were Soldiers Once Young with the Ranger tab. You would never see a private arguing with his squad leader about an op. If the squad leader said, we are charging that hill, we are charging that fucking hill.
Right. Now, and now in that same scene, that's when the medic died.
And that's when the medic died.
Would they really have kept the medic?
Would they,
back? Or would they have sent him forward like they did? Because now, to me, you keep your medic in a place where he can, he can support you from far away, but he's got to be alive.
That's why you have your casualty collection point. You don't have it on the front lines. You have it and also that's another thing too, where they assaulted that machine gun nest, did a frontal assault.
Mm-hmm.
No, we wouldn't have done that. We would have done a squad attack. We would have had a base of fire, squad, and then we would have flanked them around the side. We wouldn't have charged the machine gun nest. So again, those two little things, that's where it can really make or break, make a Saving Private Ryan a 10-10 movie to now it's a 6 for me.
Yeah,
you got, but man, I did like that the lozenges were right. I like the uniforms, from what I understand, looked right. I did like everything else about it, except for that one scene where it's like, okay, first of all, we wouldn't have frontal attacked his machine gun nest with the squad. Second of all, we wouldn't have had the medic. No, medic would have remained. Yeah, we wouldn't have done that. Third of all, there wouldn't have been an argument between a private and an E6. It wouldn't have fucking happened.
Right. And then do you let the enemy go?
Yeah, then exactly.
After that,
exactly. Yeah. But
it's always interesting to hear the perspective of you guys, because I feel like what the civilians would consider little details, for you guys are so important and could take you out of the movie, as opposed to the civilian who watches this, who's just like, yeah, this is cool, and doesn't really have to think about those details. I was thinking, as we're going over all these, this has sort of been a love fest of these movies you guys love. Not a whole lot of like, that movie sucked type of thing. So I figured I'd throw one in there we haven't talked about. Pearl Harbor.
Oh, that was, just because it's a Michael Bay movie, that was one of the reasons why I was like Michael Bay when they had told us Michael Bay was going to make the movie. It wasn't just the Transformers, but it was also Pearl Harbor. And I was like, I don't know, man.
I keep thinking of that song in Team America World Police. Why does Michael Bay get to keep on making movies?
We should actually do that. That's one of the greatest war movies ever made. CIA espionage movies ever made. But yeah.
What, Team America?
Team America, man. Yeah.
I love that movie.
I know. Surprise, cockbag. I love that. Just love it. But yeah, Pearl Harbor. I still haven't made it through the whole thing because I can't watch Ben Hufleck in that movie either. This is terrible. The only things that I think they got right, and it actually helped out with our movie because I think that's where he got the CGI from, is watching the bombs come from the airplane down and hit the boats. And if you watch 13 Hours, that is essentially the same CGI. So if there's anything that positive that came out of Pearl Harbor, it's the CGI that Michael Bay made of the bomb, seeing it from the perspective of the actual ordnance.
Right.
But other than that, awful. It's a terrible love fest war movie with Ben Hufleck and Kate Beckinsale, and just awful.
Yeah.
Awful. I don't know. Go ahead, Dale. I had to throw that in there.
I really didn't enjoy it. I mean, it just was not one of my favorite movies. You know, I mean, my grandfather was in World War II, but he was never down there in Hawaii or anything like that. And I don't know. I mean, it didn't entertain me at all. You know, even from that aspect.
Yeah.
That's why I had to throw it in there. I know that so many people hated that movie, but you are right about like the history of Pearl Harbor and at least having a movie for those guys. I mean, I think about I got to interview some of those guys at Pearl Harbor that are no longer here. I'll always cherish the fact that I did get to interview Pearl Harbor survivors. But yeah, I know that the movie overall people were not a fan of. Was nominated. I was even Googling as I was looking for some of those Razzie Awards, or Raspberry Awards, which are like the worst movies of all time. So I figured I had to throw it in there because we haven't had a lot of movies yet that you guys were like, this sucked. What were you saying, Chris?
Well, I think there's parts of movies that throw us off, but every war movie that we've talked about has also good parts too. But there are parts where, like, okay, it sucks.
Well, you also mentioned last week, like American Sniper, you were not a fan of, but Clint covered most of it because I figured Clint knew Chris Kyle, so he's the best guy to talk about.
And you know, that's why I agree. I think Clint, it's his perspective. Mine, not that it was a bad movie. I just didn't. I don't think anybody is a superhero, and it made him to be out a superhero. It did. Right. Like, this guy's a super guy. Like, no, there's nobody. There are great soldiers. There's great Rangers. But there's no Sergeant Yorks, guys. It's just not such a thing. There may be a team that make up for that Sergeant York minds, because you got a great squad, great team, got great assets. But to have one guy, what bothered me in that one is he saved a Marine platoon on his own. Like, bullshit. I'm like, come on. And that, honestly, if I was a Marine, I'd be pissed. Luckily, I'm not.
Right.
God. And a lot of the Marines that were, I shouldn't say, I always say a lot. There are a couple Marines that I've talked to that were there during that time frame, and they were like, man, they made us look like idiots, like we didn't know what the hell we were doing. And I don't think you should ever put one branch in a movie that makes another branch look like shit. They should, it just, to me, that was bad. That was bad. But yeah, that was why. I don't know, Dale, what's your opinion, man?
I was just gonna say, like, even with Black Hawk Down, like the 10th Mountain guys really didn't get any credit at all. So,
and they did,
like, for years. I mean, and still today, there's still a lot of animosity there. I mean, I could go on and on about some of the things they did wrong, but
they at least came. They did.
But they were there.
They did.
They were fucking there, and they were willing to put their lives on the line, to help us out.
And they lost what, 10 guys?
They lost 2 that night.
2 that night. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, overall they lost quite a few guys in battles over there. So they definitely understood what they were up against, and and they still came out. So I'm friends with a bunch of them, and it's nice. But the other thing I was gonna say is, we're spoiled coming from the Ranger community, because it's like everybody's Sergeant York. You know what I'm saying? Seriously, you've got to do something fucking spectacular to get noticed. Because everybody's like that.
Because it's the
best,
No, that's right.
Is the best. They don't want to be. We already are. As far as a group, man. I mean, we're all on that same level. And unless you grab a grenade, and lose your hand throwing it away.
Well, yeah, unless you're Unless you're Leroy. Yeah, Leroy went above and beyond. But you're right. I think what sets apart too is that it's to me, it's and we're talking about Rangers here. We're a combination of the best of a SEAL team and a Marine team.
Yeah.
We got the craziness with the SEALs which are awesome. You need that.
Yep.
But we've also got discipline of the Marine Corps, and you put them together. And I agree. But we are biased. You are talking to 275th guys here, so of course. We're a little biased. Go ahead, Ian. Before we start getting off subject. Man.
No, it's fine. I mean, we got a few more to cover here, and as long as you're good, Dale, because I know you're kind of like at work / doing this.
Yeah,
do you have a little more time with us?
Yeah, I had to put my phone down so I could piss, but I'm good now.
Oh shit! I didn't even realize that. I saw that you put your phone down at one point
for like an hour. I'm like, son of a bitch, man.
I did see you put your phone down. I had no idea that's what was going on, but that's
hardcore, man.
That is. I appreciate you sticking with us.
I guarantee there's no other podcast that has guests on that pissed during their interview. And we are the best.
It's happened before. I've seen it happen before.
Okay.
But I have a handful of movies left, so yeah, we'll get to those. Actually, I'm looking right here. What's another good one we should get to here? You know, it's another Navy movie, but I know, Chris, you mentioned you wanted to talk about Midway, and you said both the original and the remake.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen this, the first one with Charlton Heston back in the day, and
No.
then the new one. I'll be brief on it. And the reason I remembered it is because one of the first war movies I saw with Charlton Heston when I was a young kid, I loved it. I mean, it was very patriotic. Of course, it's World War II. That's the battle that really turned the tide against the Japanese. I mean, it really did, because we destroyed all their carrier group. We destroyed and I really loved it because of the patriotism. Granted, and it did the camaraderie. And the second one, it wasn't acted very well, especially the lead guy. He was a little not the best, but it's still just the patriotism. It was awesome, and the brotherhood of it. And honestly, I think it was better. If the first part showed the attack at Pearl Harbor, I think that first 10 minutes of Midway showing the attack on Pearl Harbor was better than the movie Pearl Harbor. So, I guys, if you want to be inspired and you see the incredible courage of the pilots, which from all my I've read about Midway. It's one of those things I loved studying when I was growing up. I think that was fairly accurate. Those guys went in undermanned, and honestly, we should have lost. And the pilots were better. The Japanese pilots were better. The planes were better. They had more of them, and somehow we pulled it out. And that to me was, I think it would remind me like a Top Gun movie, just the patriotism of it all.
That's what they talk about. That's the American spirit, man. That's what makes us, the Americans, the best fighting force in the world. It's not just our abilities, those things can be trained, but it's the heart and the mind that really can overcome. I mean, you know how strong the mind is, when you don't want to do something, or your body thinks it's going to give out, you can push yourself a little bit farther. And
through it. Yeah.
And I mean, thank God we live here.
No, I agree.
Yeah, that's well said, man. I mean, I feel like it's important to have those movies in the sense of, we always think of propaganda as a negative, but I think in the positive of propaganda, in putting out the American way of life and getting those movies overseas that people can see that we are, it might be cliche, but as Reagan said, that shining city on a hill. Sure. And that's why it was great to see that Top Gun 2 movie in theaters, I felt, because there's been so much negative publicity about America that we've done to ourselves. I mean, Chris and I have covered it so much in the past 2 years, especially. So to see a movie that glamorized America and unapologetically so, I was like, we need more of this. Because I don't think I'm corny about it, but I am a patriot. I do love living here. I do love everything about, America and our Constitution. And even having Kristen Beck on last week, when I was talking about, Kristen Beck was like extremely critical of American foreign policy right now. And I said, because of that, like, do you ever discourage people from joining the military? And Kristen was like, no, our Constitution is great. Our country is great, but that's what we need to get back to, and I think a lot of people feel that way, as opposed to being, and we talked about Team America earlier, as opposed to being the world police, which I think people do see us as now. And I do think people see as a negative. And I do think, we talk about military recruitment going down and getting off topic here, but I'm just saying, I think part of that is people joining, say, all right, am I fighting for what's going on right now in Ukraine, or am I fighting for US national sovereignty? And I do think that type of stuff discourages people from joining, because when people joined during 9/11, it was like, I want to retaliate against these people who did this to us. And it's not against what's in our interest with NATO, or as Biden has said, the liberal world order or the new world order. I don't think that's what encourages people to join the military and to fight for America. With that, a film that you mentioned, and sticking with World War II, Chris, you said you wanted to cover Patton.
Yeah, no, I still, Patton is a movie I can turn on at night and watch it. To me, and I read Patton when I was doing my officer commission. That was him and MacArthur. I read about, because we're required to read about generals, and MacArthur I thought was a prima donna. But Patton, man, he was a soldier's officer. If I was going to make it to that level before, and I thought that's who I wanted to be like, was Patton. Yeah, was he a son of a bitch? Yeah. Was he a bit arrogant? Oh fuck yeah, real arrogant. He wore a ivory coat. What was his pistol? Had ivory on it. But was he willing to be out there with the guys out front? Yeah, he was. Yeah. Did he? If you failed, did he sugarcoat it? No, he didn't. I mean, can you imagine a general now going to a hospital and seeing a guy that says, I don't want to go back on the battlefield, that has nothing wrong with him, why all these guys are amputated, injured from, and saying, stop being a pussy, get back out there.
Right.
No, you would never see that now.
No.
And I think there needs to be officers that are hardcore like that. I do. I admired the guys that were tough on me, that said, get your ass up. You're not hurt. Get out there. Because I needed that little push. We say, oh, there's too much. You can go too far on that, maybe, but not in war, dude. No, you can't. You got to get guys out there. Now, if a guy's shell shocked, and we have more ideas, we've done more studies. We have medical personnel that can determine if you're just too loopy to get out there. But also, I think there's times where guys just play on that too.
But it's it's great leadership that gets those guys that are questioning themselves to push on.
True. Makes them better.
I was lucky. I mean, so General Kurilla, now General Kurilla, was my PL when right before Somalia. So Larry Perino took over, for him when he moved on. But and then General Clark was our CO. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like man, I extremely like Rick Merritt. You know what I'm saying? I mean, dude, I'm telling you, it just flooded. Rob Phipps. I mean, we were flooded, and that's why I feel so lucky that I was Rangers, because the leadership and the friendships that we had, the brotherhood. I won't say friendships. It's a brotherhood that we had, really makes Rangers what they are, and really gives us that, almost superhuman ability to do anything that they ask us to.
Patton wasn't a Ranger or anything like that, but I think he would have been an awesome Ranger commander. He would have been on the lines of Colonel Darby. There's another old school movie, if you ever want, about old school Colonel Darby's Rangers, with the guy that played, who was the Rockford Files, who was the guy that I know, James Wagner.
Yep, Jim Wagner. Yep.
And that's another great old school leadership movie too. That's a great movie.
Northwest Passage.
Exactly. But Patton in itself, I loved it too, because it did show the arrogance of officers in the U.S. military, but it also showed that if you don't play by officers' rules, you're not going to make rank. I love saying that, because that's spot on as well. I also saw that if you want to make rank, sometimes you got to do things you don't want to do, like when he had to go do the pomp and circumstance stuff that he wasn't part of. I love that. And I thought the gentleman that played him, George C. Scott, if you read the Patton books, I think got it spot on. So that's the kind of movie that's on a Sunday. You got nothing else to do. It's just kind of a fall weather out. You don't want to watch football. You watch Patton. And I love that movie, dude. I still love it, even though it did show some of the negative sides of being an Army officer. And it did show that he was kind of an asshole too. But that's why I love it, because it showed his flaws
the truth
and his strengths. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to have that in a movie. We'll do two more here. This one I actually included because Rudy Reyes, when he was originally going to come on, and like I said, he's near that hurricane, not in Florida, but I think he's in South America right now. He called me and he was like, I want to talk about this movie and that movie. Rudy is so animated and all that. Even just talking on the phone with him for like 30 minutes. But he was like, I want to talk about Deer Hunter, and that was one he really loved. So any feelings on Deer Hunter from you guys? It looks like Dale, that might be one that's close to you.
I mean, I don't know about close, but I loved it because, I mean, they came back and I mean, they were still looking out for each other.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And to me, the Rangers gave me a family. Okay. So I didn't have much of a family growing up, but the Rangers gave me a family. And to see when guys, you know, get out and they're still the best of friends and they're still looking out for each other. That's what I think we miss as soldiers, all soldiers coming back into the civilian world is you don't get that much. And when you've got guys you can fall back on, and I mean, guys that'll, you know, cross the world to try and find you and bring you home. I mean, that's really what it's all about. So, I mean, it hit me in the heart, and that's why I love that movie so much.
It did. I love the flashbacks of when they were doing when the guys doing the suicide with the contest,
Russian
the
roulette,
Russian roulette stuff, and then it would flash back to De Niro and Walken, and I think that the actors at that time played it pretty awesome, and I loved it that they were from a small town, because the majority of soldiers, majority of Rangers, I would even say, you know, maybe SEAL side of that, majority of guys are from small towns. They're coming from small areas and of blue collar areas, like they came from a Pennsylvania mining town. So to me, it all fit right. And the flashbacks, remembering, I don't have flashbacks. If guys do, they do, but I do remember. I don't really call it a flashback, but I will. No. That was right. That was like just being out there. All of a sudden, that smell reminded me of going down Route 10. Route 10. Yeah, it does. Again, Deer Hunter for me resonated more after I stopped deploying. When I saw it from the first time I saw it before I was in the military, or when I was just getting in the military, I didn't really understand it. It was cool, but now when I watch it, honestly, I enjoy it more because I get it. I got it. It makes sense to me. So I think Deer Hunter's another one, just like Apocalypse Now, just like Full Metal Jacket, just like 13 Hours and Black Hawk Down. But I think they will get strong. They will continue to get stronger, because for those that serve may not understand it when they're younger, but when they get out, they'll watch it and they'll be like, that makes sense. I get that now. That makes sense. So yeah, Deer Hunter's awesome. One of the best movies, not just a war movie, just one of the best movies.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and with age, you grow experience, and you see things in a different light. So that makes sense to me. We'll get to one last one. We covered Major Payne earlier, which was a fun one, and I figured we'd end on a fun one. In the Army now, Pauly Shore. I love Pauly Shore, and he had this great run, and that was one of the movies that actually, according to him, I've seen interviews with Pauly. I've always found him fascinating. I saw him on Rogan, and he said before that he probably shouldn't have done that movie. He feels like that may have sunk his career in a way, because it didn't do as well as he thought it would have. And he was being asked to do other films at the time, but I think just an all around fun movie.
Dale, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I like Pauly Shore. I saw him at ISU. He opened up for another comedian, short, fat guy, yelled and screamed a lot.
Sam Kinison.
Sam Kinison. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is way back in the day. Wow. So that was probably before he was even famous.
That was when he was doing The Weasel.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that was at the height of his fame, probably.
Yeah.
But he was opening for Sam Kinison, so he probably wasn't as well known yet. You know, he wasn't the headliner. But yeah. So I've always found him funny, and just great, entertaining movie. I mean, if you just want to sit and laugh, you know what I'm saying? It's perfect.
Oh, dude, I love it. And I don't think it was. I think that's going to be a cult classic forever. I don't think that one will ever go away. You know, I think Biodome will go away. That one people will forget. But in the
I
Army
still
now,
remember it.
yeah, in the Army now, and then the other one where he's on the farm, son-in-law.
Son-in-law, yeah,
Those-
that's
those-
considered his classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those two will be fantastic. And in the Army now, it is funny. And I love how they parody where the drill sergeant says grunt and he goes, yeah, she's talking, and it's supposed to be parodying infantry. We're called grunts. And he goes, I was like, I laughed my ass off when I heard it just because I am a grunt. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is freaking hilarious. But
Were you in the military at that time? Because that's like early. I mean, I'm looking right
no,
now.
I wasn't.
94.
I got in 95. I didn't see the movie till after I was in. So I didn't, I saw it on VHS first. and then so when I saw it, I didn't see it when it first came out. I didn't even know about it till I was in the military. And then
half our audience is going to be like, what the fuck is VHS?
VHS. I know. I know.
No, our audience is like 30s, 40s, 50s for the most part. So there are some young listeners, but I do look at the demographics, and the young guys are kind of in the minority of the listeners.
But and what I loved is that he did things that every soldier would want to do to his first sergeant, especially on the radio, that never got to do. Like when he's talking to the first sergeant arguing, yelling at him, telling him what's going on. He picks up the radio and goes, "Shut up," and then he puts it back down. Every one of us wanted to do that at some point in time to our squad leader, our platoon sergeant, somebody. When he did that, I busted out laughing again. It's just those little things like what I liked in the Army is because it got stuff that all of us had wanted to do to our superior officer, and we never got to do it.
Right.
Those are the best scenes in the whole movie. Where we're talking to the first sergeant, and he gives him so much. You know, it's I would never say it to the first sergeant, but I always wanted to, and it's hilarious. Oh my gosh! Or where he does now. We have actually. This is a scene where we've parodied making fun, where guys are doing cool guy disassembling their weapons or disassembling something cool, and I've done that with my flashlight. Let's do it real quick. Shh. Yeah, and like when they're sitting at the table and this SF guy is down there and he's doing it. How fast can you disassemble your pistol, your M9 with blindfold? And he's doing this, and Pauly Shore mimics it with a flashlight, with his L-shaped flashlight. Now, I actually have done that for fun before, making fun of some cool guys. Like, oh, look how cool I am! And I'll take my flashlight out. That's what I love in the Army now. It has all that stuff that I would parody downrange, that I would do, because it's stuff that is so funny that all of us wanted to do. And especially, like I said, the talking to our superior officers, especially on the radio at the end of the scene where he's in combat, where he's shitting on himself, but he's actually having fun. I'll be honest, that is most accurate. That's accurate combat right there.
Dude, well, I mean, that's how we get through everything is you always, no matter how bad the situation was, you can always find something that happened that was just fucking hilarious, that made all that bad shit go away and until you got back.
And In the Army Now is one of those movies I would think of. I thought about In the Army Now when I was up on the rooftop in Benghazi, just because it was so.
You couldn't have been thinking about that. No, you've never said that before. No, really?
No, you think about parodying, how funny shit is. I was thinking about the combat scene in there, and I was a goof off on the radio. I was like being so belligerent. If you read the book, you'll see how belligerent I was. Oh, I parody that. Where do you think I parodied that from? I mean, Ian, I wish I could say I was making that stuff up, but it's stuff I know I'm not.
I'm going to clip this and send it to Paul and tweet it to Pauly Shore, because we got to get Pauly Shore on here. I feel like he would do it. So I'm going to see if we can clip that and tweet it out to him, because that would probably blow his mind.
Because it's like he's talking on the radio, and that's where I'm talking to Bob, especially with this, where I'm asking him about the vehicles coming, and he's not telling me anything. And all I'm telling him is like, and I was like, man, fucking great job, Chief. And that's why I said, great job, Chief. You've been a plethora of information tonight. I said that on the radio because he was really shit. Where was I? I just thought about it. It just goes through your head. I've thought about that was what I loved in the Army Now, was his interaction with the superior officers on the radio. That's the funniest parts of the movie, is that, because I always wanted to do that in the military, and now I had an opportunity. And I'm telling you, if you allow yourself to calm down in combat, those things pop in your head. And it was like, man, I have this opportunity. I can do it. I can't say exactly what he's going to say, 'cause the situation, but I can be a jackass on the radio and nobody's going to give a shit. Who gets this opportunity to do that, to recreate something I loved in a movie? And that's why I was a smart ass on the radio. Even like when the ISR is going overhead and the ISR is telling us, hey, yeah, the drone's overhead and it's saying, hey, there's guys massing on the northeast side of the compound. They're moving. And I had been watching it for about 3 minutes. And I got on the radio and I said, yeah, motherfuckers, I've been watching that for 3 minutes ago. Tell that ISR piece of shit. He needs to expand his, I said that for real. I got that from the Pauly Shore, man. I got that from the radio. I get to say something on the radio that I've always wanted to say. I'm calm. I'm collected. I'm a senior guy. So I've been through this before. I'm remembering it. Fuck it, let's say it. Who gives a shit? and it helped me get through. Yeah, I did. And I grew up in the Pauly Shore times. I grew up at the same time as Dale. That was the Weasel, the MTV. He was like I said, Son-in-Law was a great movie.
Oh yeah.
And Pauly Shore himself, he was the pinnacle comedian at the time. He was top level. Him, Gilbert Godfrey, another one. That's when Eddie Murphy was huge at that time. Sam Kinison, another one.
Yep.
That was the humor I grew up around. I'd love to have Pauly Shore on in the Army.
I got to see if we can get him on, and this clip might help. I'm a Pauly Shore fan. It wasn't as famous, but you got to see Pauly Shore is Dead. That was a great one. And actually, you have seen that? I love that. And I was going to mention this audience, if you get a chance, and maybe if we get him on, we could talk about it. He did a documentary, and I was looking it up just to get the title right a few years back, called Pauly Shore Stands Alone. And it was cool because it really showed the human side of what he does, and that, like, he lives in LA, and he says, in order to kind of afford the lifestyle I have, I'm on the road in the middle of nowhere. He's like, if I play New York or LA, quite honestly, no one cares. He's like, all these big names play there. And I have to play at these venues in Wisconsin, and it's not Green Bay, Wisconsin. It's some other small town where they're shocked that someone as big as Pauly Shore is there. And you see him, at these hotels where he's the only guy at the hotel. And the scene that I remember from Pauly Shore Stands Alone is he asks a guy near the end, he goes, so who's the biggest name who's ever played this venue? And it's not even a comedy venue. It's just like an auditorium type of thing. And they're all like, you're definitely the biggest name. And he's like, well, other than me, who's the biggest name who's ever played here? And they're trying to think. And they're like, Lucas Nelson. And he's like, who the fuck is Lucas Nelson? And they go, Willie Nelson's son. And so it's like interesting to see the realism of his career, because he's like, look, I'm no longer a superstar, but I got to go on the road and I have to make money. And it's also about the fact that at the time his mom was dying, and his mom owned the Comedy Store. So it was cool. I would love to get him on here. And I think after he hears that story from you, maybe we'll be able to do it. And I know we have a slot next month as of right now.
Oh, man,
Pauly Shore could be that. That would be pretty cool.
Well, remember, I always say we always parody the bad movies that we would see in combat. And I don't think that is one of them. That's a parody right there. That is one of them. Tropic Thunder's another one, Yeah. Granted, it came on a lot later, but when I say bad, I mean movies that maybe didn't do as well. I don't think it's bad. I think In the Army Now is still one of the best, still one of the funniest movies out there. And
believe it or not, I don't think he's the proudest of that one, because like I said, he was on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan did ask him, he was like, why did your career, kind of go downhill? And he's like, I didn't listen to my agents, and I did these movies like In the Army Now and Jury Duty. And he's like, they didn't do as well, and it was over for me. But I think everything has a time span. And he also realizes that. He's like, I was the Weasel, it was a character, and it just wasn't cool anymore. And he admits in that Rogan interview, he's like, I would love to still be doing movies. And he's like, I'm just not really asked anymore. But I would love to get him on. And I think it's possible because he does podcasts and that type of thing. But wrapping things up, Dale, we haven't had you on in a while. It's great to do this. Anything you want to plug? I know Three Rangers Whiskey, of course, and your Instagram, where people can find you, all that.
So this weekend's a crazy weekend for me. I got a tasting tonight. Tomorrow, I'm going to be down in St. Louis. Aaron Han, one of the Rangers in Somalia, he's a Go-Ruck cadre. So they're doing a Memorial Mogadishu Go-Ruck event on Friday night. So I'm going down to hang out with him. Sunday morning, I'm driving to Bowling Green, Ohio for the Mogadishu Mile event up there. Then as soon as I get done with that, I'm driving over to Sunbright, Tennessee to see a bunch of the Rangers I was with, plus another buddy of ours, Luke Goodman, who became an operator. And then I'm driving straight home and taking a shower and going to work on Tuesday morning. So
That's awesome, man. I usually write all this stuff down, but since it was you, Clint, I don't have it all written down.
Yeah.
So where could people buy Three Rangers whiskey, and what's your Instagram again?
so fuck, I don't even know my Instagram. I think it's
It's just-
RGR Sizemore 375.
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah. It's RGR
Is that it?
Sizemore 375. Yeah,
I'll look it up. Yeah.
But Three Rangers available in Missouri, Illinois, Florida, Oregon, Texas. Let's see.
Are you in Minnesota? You're in Minnesota,
No,
aren't you? You're not in
no,
Minnesota? Okay.
I think Minnesota's one of those states that is kind of weird with their liquor, isn't it?
It is. You have to get somebody to buy like two pallets of it. And luckily,
Yeah.
Ben,
Get
Ben
Paul
Morgan,
Braun.
Yeah, Paul Braun. You and Ben, you can hook it up. You and Ben Morgan
Yeah,
runs Tono Vodka, first Ranger buddy of mine's been on. Him and Dale have been. You guys have been awesome getting it out there, man. I appreciate it.
So we just had our Freedom Jam concert. I'm on the board. We're nonprofit. Nobody in the company or the organization takes one dime. Every bit of it goes straight back to
Awesome.
veteran charities. And this year we donated to Forgotten Coast Canine, which and they donated 2 dogs at the event.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
dude, absolutely
so-
crazy. And
wow.
Dave Easterbrooks, who was also in Somalia with me, he's on their board. And then the other charity was Veterans Community Project, and they build tiny home communities for veterans. I think they've got one in Kansas City, but just phenomenal, man. It's transitional housing, so the veteran comes in, he lives there and they have counseling on site 24 hours. They transition them from there to wherever their next home is, apartment, but anything that's not nailed down in that tiny home, they get to take with them.
Wow.
TV, refrigerator. I mean, if it's not nailed down, they get to take it with them. That way they don't feel like they're leaving, a full home and going and having to start all over again. So, but just great organization. Hopefully next year you guys can come down. I told them to change the date, so we'll probably do it at the very end of September, so it doesn't conflict with your anniversary. And but hopefully you guys can come down, and it's a great time. I mean, we have an absolute blast, man.
Cool.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, so definitely check that out. And yeah, that's the correct Instagram. So great having you on. Couple of things before we get out of here. I wanted to mention, of course, thoughts and prayers to our friends and listeners in Florida. Florida got hit extremely hard. There are people who have lost their homes. There are people who lost everything. There are people whose homes are completely flooded. So to those people, yeah, definitely our deepest prayers and thoughts are with you. On a lighter note, I know, Chris, you wanted to mention, of course, and by the time people hear this, you may have broke the record, but Aaron Judge tying the historical record, the natty record.
The natty
for most home
record.
runs in
Oh,
a season.
the reason I want to talk, not because I grew up on baseball and I'm a Yankees fan. I grew up on all sorts of sports, but because to me, I think we lose that athlete, that classy athlete. I don't think we have a lot of that anymore. I think we used to have it all the time. The Roger Staubachs, the Derek Jeters,
Right.
the Mookie Wilsons back on the Mets days, those are Tom Seavers. I think Judge brings that back. And I think we need more classy athletes that are breaking records out there and doing it. Hopefully, as of right now, it's the right way. I hope it's, because we don't have a lot of that. And one thing with baseball, I'm a purist. Baseball hasn't changed. Basketball has changed. Basketball adds the 3-point line. Basketball, they let NBA players travel. They take 5 steps to score.
Right.
Football, you can't bump people within a certain yard line anymore. Where I used to play, you could handle them all the time. You can't hit people like they used to. But I got close, like coming across the middle. My feet came up, and I was out for under. That would have been a personal foul. All sports have changed except baseball. Baseball is still a bat and a ball. That's it. And that's what I love. And that's why I love seeing this record, because it stood for years. And I'm a Yankees fan, but also
I'm a Red Sox fan. So,
I'm sorry. See,
Oh man,
it'll be
I'm a
back.
Mets fan. So.
But also
talk
he
about that
did it. He did it so far. And what I've seen is he did it classy. He did it like Jeter would do it. And I think Jeter as far as the last professional, classy athlete, it was Jeter and Mariano Rivera, those two. And I think we've got away from the classy athletes now, and I think Judge brought it back. So that's why I want to mention that, because I'm not I don't watch sports as much as I used to, but I still love seeing a professional, not just professional the way they act, the way they hit and play, but a professional human being, because the youth, they need that sort of role model that I kind of had growing up. The Bart Starrs, the Roger Staubachs, the Bob Lillies, the baseball players back in, I love Tom Seaver. I'm pretty proud I don't even know who Tom Seaver was. I love because he was a complete professional. Awesome with the Mets, awesome with the Johnny Bench. I mean, it's just, those are the guys, if as a youngster, when you emulate athletes that you admire.
And more of our age, even football, Mike Singletary, Payton,
Walter Payton, So
those are two guys that you could really count on to be good role models, and really that's what kids need, especially since life is so hectic nowadays.
Yeah,
So,
this is funny as a Met fan, though, hearing about like classy athlete and role model, because you watch that 86 Mets, that 86 Mets 30 for 30 documentary. They were all a mess. I mean,
oh my gosh, yeah, Dwight
Dwight
Gooden and Darryl Strawberry, man, the Koch brothers. So
Have you guys seen that by any chance? The 86 Mets 30 for 30? Because I loved Lenny Dykstra was the most entertaining of that whole thing, where that guy from the team, I don't remember who it is, went up to Lenny Dykstra because he was this short guy, and he goes, "What are you, the bat boy?" And he got in his face and he goes, "Listen, motherfucker, I'm Lenny Dykstra. I'm the best fucking player in this fucking team. You got it?" Like I love that guy. I want to get a Dykstra jersey.
That was when I was collecting cards. I've got Dwight Gooden and Darryl Strawberry rookie cards. And
by the way, I will say, role models, Strawberry actually has turned his life around and is a extremely devoted Christian now.
But Dwight Gooden is he even alive, or did he OD?
No, he's alive. But I mean, every few years something happens. I think he's been fine for a little bit, but Strawberry's been clean for a long time. And if you go to Strawberry's Instagram, I've even looked into getting him on. His life is all about, honestly, Christ and his family.
I've said, and that's hey man, we all find our way. I found my way, and I was a fucked up individual for a long time, and I found my way too. And I did Darryl. I follow those guys. I have baseball cards of all those guys when I was little, and some of them are worth a shit ton of money now. There's my retirement. But I just, the reason I would bring up Judge is because he reminds me of Derek Jeter, man. And Jeter, I emulate more military people. I admire them more than I do professional athletes, but I do love a humble professional that's good at their craft because they work their asses off, and they had a lot of natural ability too. And he reminded me of that. So that's why I wanted to mention it. And it's a big deal breaking the natural record, because Roger Maris's record has stood for how many years? Because baseball has remained somewhat pure. It really has, in comparison to the other professional sports out there. So that's why.
Yeah. I will say the Yankees have always, I don't know if it's in their credo, as an organization.
It is. You have to be clean shaven. You can't be a Yankee without it.
Yeah, they just don't put up with hooligans. They've always had some of the greatest. Hell, Mattingly, always going after each other. As far as hitting and So, but yeah, the Yankees have always been a really squared away organization.
No, it is true for the most part. I mean, and if you watch that, and I did watch that Captain series on ESPN on Derek Jeter, and I think one thing that kind of, encapsulates like what they were was when Roger Clemens was flying a little bit off the handle, and Derek Jeter says to him, "We don't do that here in New York." Stuff like that I think stands out to people. But this has been a great show. Loved covering all these movies with you guys. Thanks, of course, to Clint Emerson for coming on. And actually, as we were recording this, I just got an email back. Chris is going to be out next episode, but I'm nerding out a little bit because, I love doing these types of interviews. Edsel Dope from Dope is coming on, and there is a military tie in there. I do know that Dope and Mushroom Head, when they were touring, they did have military discounts and that type of thing. But the bigger Dope tie-in, I would say, is, and you guys might know this, Die Motherfucker Die, the song, guys learned, and Edsel has talked about this on interviews, guys in the military learned how to shoot listening to that song, and that song was on the list of songs that were played when terrorists were being interrogated at Gitmo.
Oh, that
was on the list.
PSYOP song. Wow, yeah, I could see.
So I'm
that.
definitely going to ask him about that.
Cool. Well, I'll be out. Yep, another one I'll miss, but yeah, it'll be a good one, brother. And,
yeah.
Yeah, Dale, man, thanks, buddy. I appreciate you coming on, brother.
Thanks so much, man.
All right, take it easy, gentlemen.
Perfect. I got to record the reads with Chris, but yeah, you're good to go, Dale. I'll have this up on Monday. Really appreciate this, man. I thought it was a fun show.
Yeah, definitely was. And anytime, just let me know.
Thanks.
We'll
Dave.
do it again. Thanks, man.
All right.
All right, Dave.
That's all for this episode of the Battleline podcast, but we'll be back on Monday with more American Straight Talk. Until then, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Battleline Podcast and on Twitter at Battleline Pod. To sign up for future Battleline tactical courses, go to www.christantoparanto.net. Believe in yourself, face all challenges head on, and as always, never quit.